I'm going to talk about serendipity. First of all, I'm going to tell you what I don't think it is. And it's one of those words like I don't use serendipity that much. I don't know who does, but I personally don't. So serendipity, I don't think it's making a plan, and then going to like a party and trying to plant some seeds and then, that working out and then you get somewhere with a plan. I think that's just straight hustling, which I'm all about. I'm all about the hustle, but that's not serendipity. What I believe serendipity is one very, very pure and raw thought, feeling, or emotion that's matched with another pure thought, feeling, or emotion, and those two come together to make an outcome that's beautiful and beneficial. And that beneficial outcome is something that we should be able to look back on and judge it at that point and say, you know what, that was actually a stroke of serendipity. That was a thing. That was perfect. That was good. So I wanted to share a couple of. I feel like I'm fortunate enough to have this happen a few times in my life. So when these guys asked me if I could come and speak on serendipity, I was like, you know what, I think that has happened to me a couple of times. So I'd like to share some stories with you if that's cool. I'm 16 years old. And a friend of mine said to me, hey, Raph, I'd left school by 16. A friend of mine says, hey, you wanna get some Congo drums and come and join our band? I was like, yeah, right. And I was like, yes, join your band. He's like, yeah, cool. We're going to tour Australia. You're going to be our percussion guy on the side. What else are you doing with your life? I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything. So yes, I will get some conga drums. I look up conga drums. Damn, $500 for drums. I was like, okay. So I had a 17th birthday coming up. It was about a month away. I say to my parents, I was still living at home. I said to my parents, hey, conga drums for my birthday. What do you think? And they were like, pretty expensive, but we'll have a think about it. About a week out, my father comes to my room and he's like, okay, those drums, those, we can get you those. We can get you those drums if that's what you want to do with this big birthday present. So I'm like, sweet conga drums. I'm going to be the percussionist in this band, in my friend's band. We're going to tour around. The night before, we're about to go to the music store. Before my birthday, he comes in. He's like, well, we've got the money. It's happening. Tomorrow, we're going to go get the drums. And I was like, okay, this is on. The next morning, he comes in. He's like, okay, we're going to the music store. That night, I'd thought about it. And I was like, okay, we're going to get the drums, $500. I wake up. And I was like, we're not going to go get the drums. He's like, what? No. And I was like, no, we're going to go to Days Screen Printing Supplies and I'm going to buy a screen printing carousel. Does anyone know what a carousel is? It's they used to make them, they're about this big and it was 4 colors. So it can hold 4 screens. Everyone understands the principles of screen printing. So if you make a 4-color t-shirt, it's going to have like 4 screens. You pull it down, screen. I don't know where this thought came from. So he's looking at me like, okay, well, it's your money, it's your birthday. So we went to the screen printing shop. And Days Screen Printing Shop was in Hawthorne. Now, at that stage, there was one dedicated store in Melbourne just for screen printing. So you could go there, you could buy your inks and your screens and everything. Anyway, I bought this, went in, there was this carousel, I bought it. And I was like, damn, took it home, put it in my room. I had no idea what I was going to do with this screen printing carousel. I don't know why I bought it, like honestly. But I was like, I wanted something that could potentially, and I wasn't really this guy, And so I got this carousel back, put it in my room, it sat there. I looked at it every day for about 5 months. And I moved out of home and took it with me, my carousel. You could carry it. It wasn't that big. Get it home, put it in my new place. And then one day I went back to visit my mum. And they're checking on me, what's going on with the carousel? And I was like, I don't know yet. And went back. And I mean, I was into graffiti, so I was doing designs and stuff. And I mean, my graffiti was like, I was undercover, no one, this was like, my shit was dark. Like, I'm talking real dark. Like, check this out. Like, no one knew it was me, right? This is like dark shit. This is dark web. So, but I wasn't gonna be the guy that was gonna do it. And I'm going back to Seaford, and I get off. But today I went too far. I went to Frankston Station, and get out of the train station, and I bump into my friend Danny. He was about 5 years older than me, maybe 6 years older than me, and he was the graffiti master though. He was the Frankston line guy. He was the dude. Everyone looked up to him, and he was unreal. And I get out of the train, and he's hobbling along, and I'm like, what's happening? What happened to you? And he's like, oh, well, 6 weeks ago I had a knee surgery. I did my knee skateboarding. And I was like, oh, damn, that sucks. He's like, this is my first day out, ventured out of the house. I was like, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to the photocopy shop. And I was like, the photocopy shop? So back then there was no, we didn't really have computers and printers. So if you were doing designs, you had to go and photocopy it if you wanted to make reproductions and work on it. So I was like, damn. He's like, yeah, I've just been sitting there and at home, and I've been working, and I've come up with these designs. And I had a look, and he's like, yeah, I've worked up this word. It's called blank, and I want to make 5 T-shirts. And I was like, damn. And he's like, but I have got no way to print it. I was like, you got no way to print it? I've got this screen printing carousel. He's like, what? Say what? I was like, I've got this carousel. It's sitting in my room. And he's like, damn. Anyway, I called him last night, and he had this. I was like, you got any of those prints? Have you got any of those photocopies that you showed me that day when I was at the train station? And this was one of them. This was this thing that he had. So it was like a graffiti marker. You can see on the right-hand side, like this was the 2-color separation. So the one on the left would have been the white screen, and the one on that would have been, I can't remember, but if we printed on a light T-shirt, and then the other one would have been the filling color. So I'm like, damn, I've got the carousel, I've got the screens, we can just go and start making T-shirts. And we did. That's what we did. We started in a little lounge room in Frankston. We moved in together, and we worked every single day. Within 1 year, within about 1 to 2 years, we were selling $1 million in our own T-shirts and designs across Australia. It was fantastic. It was phenomenal. This is 1995. We went on to have distribution in 5 countries. We did all the artwork. We screen printed for about 3 or 4 years ourselves before we moved that on to subcontractors. And it was just phenomenal how this happened. And it was, looking back on it, it was 2 pure thoughts that came together at a really good time. It was a chance, and it was unreal. Had a great time. We never had a fight. We talked about everything. We still enjoyed our graffiti. And yeah, it was a really great thing to happen. We got sick of it, and we got offered to buy the company, and we decided that it wasn't. We cared about it too much to see it go to someone else, so we just decided to move on to other things. So that was my start in I guess business and creativity, and my first recollection of serendipity. I'll fast forward to about 2008. I went to see a gig at the Corner Hotel, and I'm one of those guys. If it says the band comes on at 9, like you go at 9, and always like, damn, walk into the band room, no one's there. I was like, okay, cool. Well, go sit in the sidebar. So I go sit in the sidebar, sit down. And I look to my right, and there's my friend Woody. Now, Woody was the booker he'd been booking bands. I knew him around certain band rooms, and he's always bringing in acts from overseas. And he was also working on the Meredith Festival. So he looks at me, he's like, what have you been doing, Raph? And I was like, oh, dude, all I do every day in and day out, is think about hamburgers and tacos. I seriously make hamburgers and tacos. I made them every single day. My poor wife, like, my house, smoky as hell, everything, I'm like, I got to get this, I'm down at the butcher. Okay, can I get 10% chuck, 5% brisket, mix it all up. Oh, can I get that half a kilo? Like, they hated me, but I was down there every day because that's what I was researching. It's just something that took me over, So I was at the baker. I was asking him to do special bread. Anyway, he says to me, what have you been doing? I said, I've been doing hamburgers. He's like, what? Hamburgers? What do you mean? I was like, well, there's nowhere I can get the hamburger that I want in Melbourne. There was this old style fish and chip sort of style burger, which I really like, but there was nothing of a new sort of vibe, nothing on the American sort of tip, and then flipped into an Australian landscape. So I was working on that, and I loved working on that. And he's like, okay, well, what are you going to do with these hamburgers? I was like, I'm not sure. And he's like, well, have you ever thought about doing a hamburger stand at Meredith? And I was like, whoa. Yeah, he's like, we don't actually have a hamburger at Meredith. Has anyone been to the Meredith Music Festival? It's fantastic, right? But the food in 2008 wasn't very developed. So they didn't have a hamburger. I was like, what? Everyone's got a hamburger, but not this style. So he looks at me and I was like, yeah, you know what? I reckon I could do that. I didn't understand what I was saying yes to, but I was saying yes because I loved hamburgers. So I go home and I think to myself, okay, well, how am I going to do this? So so it was like, okay, well, you can hire all the equipment and put it in a truck, drive it in a truck, unload it, and I was like, why don't we just leave all the equipment in a truck and just open the truck? And that's what we did. We put it all in the truck, we bolted it all down, we opened it. My wife Becky did the design, the Beatbox, and we opened. I received the truck the day before Meredith, and I drove there. Here's me, man. Hospitality really f's you up, huh? And there's my friend Max in the back with Ed Davis of the Heavy Mental, and then there's us trading on the street in the early days, and we got out there. This pure thought turned into this business, and it was matched by another pure thought of someone just going, well, why don't you come up? There was no gain. The only gain for Woody to say, do you want to come, is so he could have a delicious hamburger at Meredith. We went on to work at Golden Plains as well. In the 9 years that we've been servicing the festival, we've flipped over $500,000 just in hamburgers alone. So very fortunate to have that happen to me, to look back and say, wow, that was a real stroke of serendipity, I believe. With serendipity, I think also comes serendipity. You know when you're like, oh damn, I gotta pay that person. Shit, I gotta pay that bill. Damn it, when am I gonna pay that bill? And then, within 24 hours you get a call. It's like, when are you gonna pay me? I think you put it out there, you put out those feelings out there, then they come back to you. So just be aware that all these beautiful things, you gotta stay in balance. You gotta pay your bills on time, otherwise you will experience serendipity. Going back to around 2004, I had on my burger travels, I was going to the States all the time. So the clothing had let me travel a fair bit. And when I was traveling, I was studying hamburgers, and I was also photographing hip hop producers' home studios. So I was going in and I was shooting their home studios. It was the first kind of hip hop interiors book. I was shooting on medium format with all available light. So I was back in Melbourne. I'd already shot most of the studios, and I was sitting there and I was looking at it. I was looking at the producers list. I'd shot about 25 studios, and I was thinking to myself, this book needs one more producer. So I was just thinking about it, and I knew it was Madlib. Anyone know Madlib? Amazing hip hop producer. very bedroom-esque sort of style. So I was sitting there. The next straight away, I was like, I knew Madlib's manager, so I sent him an email. I said, hey, you know, just letting you know, like if Madlib's available again. We'd already had some times where we didn't quite link up in LA. So Madlib, I get an email straight back. It says, Madlib's keen, I'm with him now, and I'm with Dilla as well, and he's also keen. So for those who don't know, Jay Dilla's the probably the greatest hip hop producer of all time. Created his own sound. He's changed the whole genre, if you ask me. So I'm like, whoa, you know, damn, Madlib's keen, Dilla, what? So I email back and I'm like, hey, okay, well, I'll come over. He's like, yeah, they just said swing by. I don't know if you ever if many people deal with Americans, but sometimes they talk to you like you're just around the corner. So I was like, oh, it's going to take me 2 days to get there. And so so I was like, okay, well, shit, I got to go, you know, like this just chance that Dilla's, you know, interested. So I get to LA and my friend picks me up from the airport and he takes me to Dilla's house. And I was like, whoa, is this really kind of happening? You know, this guy's like a total idol of mine. You know, I can't believe it. His music inspired me so much. So we get to the house and I was like, well, what's he doing today? He's like, oh, he's actually having a family day, but he's there making music. And I was like, okay, no one he'd actually asked people to leave the room before while he was making music because he was very personal. But today he was just out there. He was just tapping away on his MPC. So I got in there and I shot the portrait. His family was there, and managed to shoot this photo of him and his daughter, which is where are we? Well, where's that one coming up? This one. So this is Jay Dilla with his daughter. This is probably one of the only photos. His daughter reached out to me years later and said, you know, that's one of the only photos that I have. I was very, very fortunate to have photographed that. Went on the images. They were very beneficial to me as a creative person to have achieved this. The book that we did publish through Ginkgo Press went on to be reprinted 6 times. It's about to be reprinted in its 7th, and it's sold over 30,000 copies. The images, Jay Dilla actually passed away 6 months after these photos. So these are the last photos of him. Rough Draft was one of the albums. I feel like I really benefited from these images, but I feel like their estate and the family and Stone's Throw were able to benefit too by having some images that they could use. This is probably the most iconic photo. Jay Dilla in the big archway. I was able to come back on my tripod and just shoot him straight. Basically just a producer in his natural environment. This image was also acquired by the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. at the African American History Museum. So I was very fortunate for that to happen. And I believe these were 3 cases of serendipity that have happened in my lifetime. Thanks so much for listening.